Well, John Deere came up with the plow in the first place, but when he realized that it took a lot of work to scrape the thing off, he came up with what's called a self-scouring plow, kind of like our Teflon is nowadays. And that really saved a lot of work because it would shed that mud as he went through. They came up with an idea that if somebody could sit on the plow, let the horse pull it, maybe it takes 2 horses, depends on the field. The farmer could sit there, and if he wasn't walking, the horse could walk faster because he can go faster than the farmer could. And all the farmer's got to do is sit up here and drive the horses and run this gear thing here that would raise and lower the plowshare. This check row planter thing looks like barbed wire, but it would feed through each of these sides here. There's these pulleys. They'd lay it across the field with the pulling hooked up into these things. Now exactly how it worked, I think it must have just passed through as they went along, and then they must have gone back later and took it up. But it would help them plant a straight row. Also, when it got up there, it would make a check sound, which is why they call it a check row planter. And when it made that check sound, the guy sitting there would pull the lever. There was a lever here too, it's gone. So there was one on each side. And he would pull the lever and see. This is just a replica of a hay stacker. And what they would do is they'd bring the hay in to a central location on a hay wagon and then just pitch it off, and a hay stacker could come down and pick it up. And they'd have to pull it into a field. It was very heavy. It was solid iron. Pull it into a field with horses, take several of them to pull it, drive it into trenches they had already dug, or take the wheels off of it so it sat flat on the ground. Because the horses were going to power it by walking across it. It would be like a big carousel. And you would put the hay in, and then this thing would keep pushing through, and it would push the hay out here. This is what shaped the bale in those days. The next step was self-propelled, where it ran on its own. This one was developed around 1939 or so. And then World War II started, so there weren't too many of these sold until after that war. But then they began to really develop these things, and of course you've seen combines nowadays, what they look like. This would only cut wheat, but the new combines, the now, will cut any of the grains, any of them. There's just simply a reset of the computer, and usually they set this cutter bar is different. They take this section off and put a different one on. You'll see earlier tractors here. Anytime you see anything with these iron wheels with lugs on them, that's an early tractor. That one looks pretty lethal, doesn't it? You wouldn't want to encounter that. This is a self-propelled cotton picker. Long, long ago, they had to pick it by hand. And this was very difficult to do. It was hard on the hands until you got toughened into it. And somebody, of course, was thinking there ought to be a better way. We shouldn't have to pick it by hand. And I'm sure that they probably came up with some pickers that you could pull. But the only one we have here in our museum is this self-propelled one.